Hi, I'm Liz. I love Excel, and today we're going to learn a little bit more about macros. Macros are just a really simple way to repeat a task in Excel over and over and save you a little bit of time. In this example, I'm going to build a macro that will become a button for someone to refresh a pivot table. Yes, to refresh a pivot table, you can just right click on the pivot table and click on refresh. But for some people who aren't very confident in Excel, that can be really hard to do. So if you're trying to make your spreadsheet accessible, building a macro might be the way for you. In this example, what I've got here is a sales table. So I've got items that I've sold and then how many of them that I've sold. And I just want it so that at the end of the day, once the items that we've sold have been added in, there's a button we can hit to refresh. So the first thing we need to do is check if we've got the developer tab in the ribbon, and you can see I don't in this example. So to add it in, I'm going to click on File, come down to Options. I'm going to click on Customize Ribbon and then select Developer and click on OK. Now I can see my developer tab. I'm going to click on it and come over to Insert and then select this button up here. Then I'm going to draw my button wherever makes sense for me and I'm going to name it. So in this case, I'm just going to call it Refresh Pivot. Now I'm being a bit lazy here and I'm not putting a space. The reason I'm doing that is it'll just make the rest of the steps a bit easier. There's a few areas in Excel where it doesn't like spaces. So now I'm going to click on Record. Again, keeping it with no space. If you have a space at this point, try to backspace and replace with an underscore or something to get rid of those spaces. And I'm going to click on OK. Now see up here at the top, it's recording all of the actions that I'm doing in my pivot table right now. So try not to mess around too much. All I'm going to do is come to my pivot table. I'm going to right click on it, click on refresh, and then I'm going to stop recording. So it's as simple as that. I've just recorded a macro in my spreadsheet. Now I'm going to do a few things just to tidy it up a little bit. I don't like this button saying button 2. Doesn't make sense to me. So I'm going to right click on that and I'm going to click on edit text. And I'm just going to go click here to refresh. Nice and obvious, really simple for people to use. So let's see if my button works. You can see we've sold 6 apples, 10 pears, and 19 strawberries for a total of 35 items. I am going to come back to my sales data tab. In here, I'm going to sell some pears and I'm going to sell 10 of those pears. So let's come back to my pivot table, check my button's working. So I'll click it. And now we can see the pears have updated to 20 and it makes it really easy. The last top tip with with a macro to remember is when you're saving your spreadsheets now, you want to go File, Save As. And when you're picking a location to save it, just make sure in this save type, you're selecting a macro enabled workbook. So really important. If you don't enable those macros, the button will stop working. But that's it. That's how simple it is to create an easy macro in Excel.